Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the webinar. So for those of you that have participated in an interactive class, this will be real similar but a little bit different because it is sort of one way. It's a little bit more boring, but it will go a little bit faster. So again, if you have questions along the way, you can raise your hand or type in your question, and we'll try to answer them as we go. Or as we get to the end of each section, we will go back and try to address questions that have come in. So for the purpose of today's training, we're going to make sure that you understand the role of the vendor role in WIC and what the purpose of WIC is. We're going to go over the contract requirements for being a WIC contractor. We're going to go through the process of transacting a WIC check. We're going to talk about the new approved WIC foods that just came out in October, and we'll give you a little bit of information about the resources for getting help with WIC. So for those of you who don't know, hopefully you already all do, but WIC is the Federal Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infant, and children. It is for pregnant women, new and breastfeeding moms, and children under the age of 5. This is a place where families go and they get monthly checks for healthy foods and other resources and services. And in 2016, we made a difference for over 275,000 women, infant, and children in Washington. A couple of facts about WIC. There are about a half of all infants born in Washington are on WIC. 67 of our WIC participants are in working families, and about 11,000 clients are in the military or military families. There are about 60 local health agencies that serve families at over 200 sites. So just a little bit of what that means is, so a local health agency might be something like CMAR or Community Action Council, or so like an agency, but then they also can have multiple clinic sites that they serve. So there might be 3 or 4 sites in a particular city, all ran by an agency. So there's 60 health agencies, but there are 200 clinic sites that serve WIC. WIC is also offered by approximately 700 retail stores. So that means we have 700 stores. Actually, I think it's like 711 or something, a little bit over 700 statewide that have a contract to take WIC checks. So the mission of WIC is to improve the lifelong health and nutrition of women, infant, and young children in Washington State. We accomplish this mission by, at the clinic, the clients come in and they meet with clinic staff, and this is where the WIC staff determine a client's eligibility based on their financial income. They also do measurements of their growth, their height, their weight. They check their iron levels. The clinic staff provide this prescription for nutritious foods. They offer nutrition education and breastfeeding support, and they also refer clients to other social and health services. So when we use this word prescription, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go over checks, but just sort of the idea and the understanding that it's really critical that we're only selling what is printed on the check. So these, especially when it comes to like formula or a non-fat or a whole milk, those are specifically prescribed to the child or the mom for a purpose and for a reason. It's not just, random, oh, they want milk. It's actually, a requirement for them to get either the non-fat or the whole, and the same with the formulas. Some of those specialty formulas are actually a prescription. So as we talk about checks and making sure you're only selling what's on the check, keep that in mind. That those aren't just checks, they're actually considered prescription checks. So for accomplishing our mission, the part that you play is that the clients are able to access safely the food that they need at critical time in their life. They get the foods that are prescribed by the WIC staff that meets their individual needs. So again, making sure that you're carrying those specific WIC foods that are required and some additional ones if you can. And we hope that you feel positive about participating in WIC because you understand and you realize what the purpose is and what the mission is, and really how many moms and children we are reaching out and serving. So just a little factoid here about WIC. Over $108 million was spent on WIC foods in the year of 2016. And studies show that WIC shoppers will spend additional $3 to $4 at the store for every WIC dollar they spend. So therefore, the way you interact and how you treat those WIC clients in your checkout lines really can make a difference in their customer loyalty and how they feel about participating in WIC. So it's really important, that you understand and that you're having a good interaction and treating them with respect, just like you would any of your other clients, and that your role in WIC really does make a difference for the WIC participants. A little bit of background on how and where WIC comes from. It's funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. USDA contracts with us, the Washington State Department of Health. We contract both sides. So we contract with you guys, the store, so your store has a contract to transact WIC checks. And then on the other side, we also contract with those local health agencies I referred to earlier, those 60 health agencies. And then at those agencies, they have clinics, and then at the clinic, they contract with the client. The client signs the rights and responsibilities agreement to receive WIC benefits. So part of the required part of this training is a little bit boring, but I'm going to try to just get through it and cover the basics. So the contract requirements to have a WIC contract, you must get your infant formula from an approved supplier. So for the most part, that's already been addressed. So when your store first signed up to have a WIC contract, you verified that you were getting your infant formula from an approved supplier. And at any time during the contract, if we need to ask for verification or check on that, you need to make sure that you're continuing to get your formula from one of our approved suppliers. If you don't have that list or you're not sure if you're doing that, you can always email us or let us know, and we have a list of approved suppliers. But for the most part, that should already be in place. This is more of an issue for when you're a newly trying to get contracted store. You need to get all of your foods directly from a wholesale supplier. You can't go buy your food from another store and sell it on your shelf, so it needs to be coming from a wholesale supplier. And you also have to be authorized with SNAP. So when a store first signs up to get a WIC contract, they must prove that they have a SNAP contract, and you need to continue to be SNAP eligible throughout your WIC contract period. You need to maintain business integrity, making sure you're keeping records, including your receipts, invoices, tax reporting are organized and readable. So for an example, if we need to do an audit, an inventory audit, or check on something going on with your store, and we want to verify your invoices with what your WIC checks you're redeeming, you need to be able to provide those documents to us. They need to be, chronological, legible, and available for us to review. So just making sure you're keeping good records. You need to offer competitive prices. So that means, staying in the competitive price range with the other stores like you. And you'll see this for those of you who've been involved in price surveys. The purpose of those price surveys is to make sure stores are being competitive with each other. So every store is categorized in a peer group according to their size, their location, like geographically, whether they're urban or rural, how big they are, how many cash registers they have, and everybody's categorized into different peer groups based on those things. And then you are all supposed to be having prices that are comparable to each other. And so that's how we want to make sure during price surveys we assess that and make sure nobody is having too high of prices than their peers. Part of the contract requirement is to make sure you have an active email address. So this is how we do all of our communication with our vendors, is through email. So if you ever make a change to your email address, if you have a store manager leave and the email was going previously to a store manager, make sure that our office gets the new email address. All of our e-bulletins, our WIC changes, our training announcements, everything that we communicate with our contracted vendors goes through email. So it's really important that we have a valid email address. And then that person that's on the receiving end of that email address, they need to make sure that they're doing their part to distribute whatever information we're sending out to all of the cashiers or the people who need the information. Sometimes, we have somebody at the top level getting the email, but then it's not filtering down to all of the staff at the check line. So make sure whoever is getting that main email is distributing it to everyone who needs to know the information. So also letting us know prior to selling a store or purchasing a store, if there's going to be any change in your store, change of ownership or something like that, you need to let us know. You have to maintain a full line grocery, and so I think that I believe that document is on our website. If not, if you're interested in it, we can get it to you. But basically, it outlines the requirements for being a full line grocery store. So you need to have, you know, like 20 varieties of fresh fruit and vegetables. You need to have a certain amount of frozen foods, certain amount of dairy products. So it really lays out all of the requirements. Again, that's usually more important at the time that the store is opening. However, really, really important to know that all throughout your contract, you need to maintain that full line grocery status. So if you meet it at the beginning of opening your store, and then we come out later to do a monitor visit and you don't meet the full line grocery definition, the federal regulations state that we must terminate your contract. So if you are a small store, you really want to pay attention to that document and make sure that you're always in full compliance with that. You have the opportunity to request an exemption if you need to for a particular category. If you're just really, really small store in a really remote location, there have been times where we have allowed some reduction in that just based on the circumstances, but really important that you're maintaining that full line grocery at all times. Additionally, making sure at all times you're meeting the WIC minimum inventory requirements. So that's the required foods that are the WIC required minimum foods. I believe that document came to you in your handouts. If it's not in your handouts, we'll get it to you, and it's also on our website. So the other part of the contract is making sure you're following the proper check handling procedures. You're selling only the specific WIC-approved foods that are printed on each check. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. So not only do you have to make sure you're selling the food that's only written on the check, but that the food itself is also an approved food. Couple things, so two things that you really have to make sure, both that it's on the check and that it's actually a WIC-approved food. And then also that you're not offering incentives exclusively to WIC customers. So like you're not allowed to do special sales for WIC clients on Saturdays. All WIC clients get, you know, reduced, you know, cheaper vegetables or something like that. So you can't do anything exclusive to WIC customers. They are treated just like every other customer. They have the same rights to use any kind of coupons or buy one get one free and club discounts also. So treat them just like every other customer. Part of the training requirements of the vendor contract is that you participate in an interactive training at least once every 3 years. So as Janelle mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, this is for the contract period of 2015 to 2018. So we have done, every year we've done multiple classroom trainings across the state. So chances are you missed one of those, and that's why you're having to participate in this webinar. But this does qualify as an interactive. An interactive basically just means the ability to ask questions, comment, and have dialogue either with us, the staff, or with each other. So then just keep in mind that next year, the next contract will start for 2018. You may want to pay closer attention to when the classes are being offered around your area, because I think it's a little bit funner to actually go to the class than listening on a webinar, but that's up to you. So. But this does qualify as an interactive training, and every store is required to participate at least once every 3-year period. You can go to more trainings if you want. If your store needs additional training, you could go to training every year. If there's one near you, that's totally fine. Just make sure you get at least the minimum one in. The expectation is that for whoever does attend the training, the required interactive training, that they are going back to their location and training all of their employees and sharing the information. As part of this broadcast today, we sent out the handouts, and in that packet that we sent to you are copies of everything that we're going to talk about. There's like quizzes and interactive pages in there. Additionally, we included the answer keys. So when you go to a classroom training, we do the activities and then we go over the answers in the class. But we also send you home, send you back to your store with the answer keys so that you can use those same training materials at your job site. And if you're training new staff, you can issue the quizzes to them, and then you also have the answer keys. You can do them, you know, as group trainings or monthly updates or however you do that at your store. But we provide you with the quizzes and activities along with the answer keys. And then we ask that when you do these trainings, that you do the read and sign. We included in your packet a document called training records. Basically what that is, you know, if you do a e-bulletin or you do quizzes or you do some type of training, WIC training with your staff, You document what that was, and then you have the staff sign off on it, and that you keep those records available in your store. When we come out to your store to do a monitor, we will ask if we can see your training records, so it's nice to have those read and signs available. You don't have to use our format. If you have your own, that's fine. We just provide it as an option for you. So part of our job as vendor management specialists, there's 4 of us, myself, Kelly, Heidi, and Kina. We cover all of the stores in Washington State, and one of the components of our job is to come out and do store monitors. So these are unscheduled visits where we come into the store, we introduce ourselves, we say, oh, we're here, we're going to do a monitor visit, we're from the state WIC office. We'll try to meet with the store manager or whoever's in charge of WIC or front-end manager, whoever is identified at the time of the visit. We'll talk about a few things. We'll go over how your banking has been, if you've been having rejected checks, if you're having issues with any of that. We'll go through the store, we'll check inventory, make sure you're meeting all of the required inventory for full-line grocery, as well as WIC food requirements. We're going to randomly check and make sure you don't have a lot of outdated foods. We want to see that prices are clearly marked on everything, and that if you are using our shelf tags, that they're posted accurately and correctly in the right place. Shelf tags are not a contract requirement, but we do ask that if you use them, that you use them with the proper foods. We don't like to see them misplaced, and we know they can get moved. And so if you're going to use them, we just ask that you have staff periodically walk through the store and make sure the tags are in front of the right foods. It does make it easier for shoppers. So the better job you do with the shelf tagging, the less confusion there is at the check stand for the client and the cashier. We want to make sure that you're handling your WIC transactions correctly. So if we have the opportunity to observe one, we will. We'll ask to take a look at some checks that are in your register that you've received that day, and just see if there's any errors on them, and just go over that with you. We'll ask to see training records. Again, kind of like I talked about it in the last slide, was, we'd like to see your read and sign bulletins, maybe like the last 2 e-bulletins that went out. We like to see and verify that that information has been passed on to all the staff. We just want to make sure that the store is clean and accessible and that you're meeting all the requirements for the WIC contract. And we answer questions and share information. So anything that comes up when we're out doing a monitor visit, we can help you with. You might have a question about supplies, or maybe you're having issues with a particular client or shopper. You can let us know, I don't know what to do about this person, and we'll explain to you kind of our complaint process, or anything we can do to help when we're there. That's what we're there for, is to help you out. Is there any questions at this point about monitor visits or anything that we've talked about so far? I'll pause just for a second and make sure nobody has raised a hand yet or typed in any questions. So that's fine. I'll just keep going, and if anything comes up, then you can just type it in, and we'll get to you at the next break. It looks like from hearing to not being able to. Okay. All right, so Kelly will work on that question over there, and I will move forward with the slides. So the WIC sanctions, so if you are a store and you had a non-compliance issue, whether it was from a monitor visit or during a undercover buy, so we have a compliance unit that does some undercover work, and you might have gotten a letter or a notice that says that you have a WIC violation, and it will ask you to take corrective action. Maybe you didn't have enough formula or something like that. Then we'll ask you to show us an invoice that you got your formula up to stock. What can happen is if you have a pattern of violations, so if we repeatedly find that you're not carrying the full stock, or if you continue to have substitutions. Substitution seems to be the #1 area that we have violations. A couple of common areas is substituting the wrong formula, or substituting, like if the check says non-fat milk, they're allowing the client to buy a whole milk. The milk and the formula seem to be the 2 biggest ones that we find substitution with. So really making sure you're paying attention to those. So a pattern of those types of violations can lead to termination or fines of your WIC contract. So just making sure that your staff are well aware of all the requirements and that your store isn't getting any violations. And we do have reciprocity with SNAP, so if you do get disqualified from WIC, it's possible that you will also get disqualified from SNAP. So the violations are handled seriously. In the contract, there's a table that shows what violations and what sanctions go with those violations. I believe it's on our website if you're ever interested and want to take a look at it. A little bit about complaints. So they're on our website. There is a link to filing a complaint. And so in a store, from the store standpoint, if you have a client that you're having issues with, you're welcome to report it on the complaint form. If they're being, using abusive language and threatening and hostile with your staff, we want to know about that so that at the clinic, the next time the client comes in, they can talk about the behavior with the client. If there's any other issues that are coming up, let us know. Turn it in on a complaint form. It helps us develop our training. It helps us educate the clients at the clinic. It helps us improve compliance and identify fraud. So there have been some instances where we found a lot of selling of formula online or kind of formula black market fraud rings. So if you suspect that in any way, if you think you have information that might identify that for us, please, turn it into us at least, and then let us take it from there and investigate it further. So use that complaint form online to report any issues or questions that you might have for us. So taking a WIC check. So usually, during the interactive session, this is a little more interesting. So it's going to be, we're just going to walk through the steps of transacting a WIC check. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get a WIC check is you're going to identify the person, right? So you're going to ask for their identification, and their identification can be either their driver's license or their WIC folder, their appointment ID folder, and the appointment ID folder needs to be signed. So they can, if they don't have a driver's license, but they have maybe a passport, or they have a state ID or a military ID, those qualify as well. And you're going to just check the box next to the name of the person that is in front of you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to check the dates on the check, so the first date of use and the last date of use. You're going to make sure that the transaction date, today's date, is in between that first date and last date of use. If it's not, then you will not get paid on that check. So you want to make sure that you have the accurate date in the box. The third thing you're going to do is scan all the items on the check. Some people, do it in order of the check, and they put a little tick mark next to the item as they check it off and run it through the line. Some people say that helps it stay organized and make sure they got everything accurately. And again, this is really important to not only make sure that the food that you have in front of you on the check line actually matches what's on the check in front of you, and it's the right size, it's the right amount. And then just make sure you don't draw a line through the number. So if you want to put a tick mark next to it that you got the 2 gallons of milk or the cereal, just put a little mark next to it. Just don't cross through the number. And then the fourth thing you're going to do is you're going to put the purchase price in the box. So you're going to write the purchase price, the total purchase price in the box. And then you're going to ask them to sign the check. So it's really important that that price is getting put into the purchase price box before you ask them to sign the check. So it's sort of a checks and balances for them so that they know what price you put in the box, that you're not going to make up some price after they've signed the check and walked away. So it is part of the check transaction process to make sure you put the price in there before you ask them to sign the check. A couple things about transacting a check: make sure you're using black or blue ink. Make sure you're printing legibly on the check and staying within the box. If you do have an error, just draw a line through your error, correct it, and put your initials next to it. Don't scribble things out. Just draw a line and correct it and put your initials. Don't use those gel pens like pink or purple. These checks are scanned by computer, and then the hard copy is destroyed. So the image itself needs to be clearly legible. Sometimes those gel pens don't come out very well on a scan. So make sure you're just using black or blue. The next check is the only difference on this next picture is that this is a fruit and vegetable check. The only difference on this is fruit and vegetable has a cash dollar or cash value amount, so it doesn't have each item listed. It just says that they either get, I believe it's $8 or $11. And so whatever they get, you put the total price in the box, but that cannot be more than the $8 or the $11. Sorry, excuse me. And then the same process, the dates, the signature, and then just making sure that the amount is not over the 8 or the 11. These can be combined, so you can combine the checks. Just make sure you're not writing over the amount in the box. All right, so when can you refuse a WIC check? So if the shopper shows up and the names on the check don't match the ID that they're showing you, then you can refuse the check. If the dates are outside the use dates, then you refuse the check because you will not get paid on that. If the check has been altered or severely damaged, you can say, you know, this is just unlegible, I can't read it, I'm sorry. And with any of these, you know, just suggest to them they go back to the clinic and get help from the clinic staff. They can reissue the check if they need to, or maybe they need to come back with a valid ID, whatever the circumstances are. But these are reasons why you would want to refuse the check. The change that we had, I believe, last year was the pre-signing of a check. It used to be that if they brought a check in that was already signed, you were not allowed to take it and you had to turn them away. But what we did is we created a workaround to where even if the check is already signed, we still ask them to re-sign the check in front of you. That way we know that they saw the price in the box and then they re-sign, they can sign underneath their name. So you don't have to turn them away anymore if the check is pre-signed, but you do have to have them re-sign the check again. Okay, so the next part is the sequence of taking a WIC check. This is an activity that we typically do in the classroom setting. That's kind of hard to do on a webinar. So basically what I'll do is, and I think in your packet you should have an answer key, but I will also just go through this with you and you can fill it in as we go through. But on this particular document, so the first thing you would do in transacting the WIC check is letter E. You're going to verify the WIC shopper name on the check, that it matches their appointment folder or any other acceptable form of ID. The second thing you're going to do is letter I. You're going to enter a check mark in the appropriate name box on the WIC check for the customer who is using the check. So that's the little name box at the bottom of the check underneath the signature. The third thing you're going to do is letter G. You're going to examine the dates of use, so making sure that the date that you're taking the check falls between the first and the last date of use. The fourth thing you're going to do is letter C. You're going to enter today's date in that box. The fifth thing you're going to do is scan or ring up the items that are on the check, verifying that the selected foods are on the WIC check and that they are approved foods according to the WIC shopping guide and according to the formula reference sheet. The sixth thing you're going to do is total the items for that check, and you're going to write it in the actual purchase price box. The seventh thing you're going to do is letter H. You're going to have the customer sign the check in the signature box. If they've already signed it, you'll just ask them to re-sign it again. The eighth thing you're going to do is letter F. You're going to review the check to make sure it has valid dates, an appropriate price, and a signature and a check mark in the name boxes. So you're reviewing the whole thing to make sure everything is accurate. This would be a good time also to use those check guards if you have those at your stores, and you can go through to make sure each one of those little boxes on that template has been filled out. The ninth thing you're going to do is complete the transaction and proceed to the next check or the customer's other purchases. So that's just a review of the sequence of transacting a WIC check. So the next document you're going to see is, or the next slide that we're looking at, is looking for errors. Again, we're going to you can pause for just a second here and you can take a look at this first slide and see if you see any errors on this check, and then we'll go over that in just a second. And let's see. So the first check on that page, the errors were the excess dollar amount. So as you can see, $98 is a lot of dollars for those particular food items. So clearly we did something wrong there. The other thing is that the name box doesn't match the signature. So the signature says Tom Sawyer, and the name boxes are Janice Drew and Gary Drew. So there's not a match there. So those are the errors on the first check. Second check actually didn't have any errors, so we were just trying to see if you found anything, and there were no errors on that one. The third check had the excess dollar amount that you see for the fruit and vegetables. So this is where I was explaining you can't go over the $8. So the fruit and vegetables is for $8. That box should just say $8. You collect the difference, the 59 cents separately. You collect it from them, you know, however they want to pay for it separately. But on the WIC check, you can only write $8 or less. And then again, they didn't check the name box. On the third check, we have an improper price correction. So you can see that they did a scribbling out of the purchase price instead of just drawing a line and initialing, and then they didn't get a signature on this check. This particular check has outside of the date use, so you can see it was February 9th, but it wasn't actually valid until February 10th, and then they didn't put a purchase price in the price box. This particular check has the dates are outside of the use. So this actually happens. I just had this happen recently where it was a year off. So the date is valid. So you look at it and you're like, oh, February 10th, today's February 11th, and it's good till March 11th. It must be good. But what you miss is the year. So sometimes, and we see this happen, a client might have not used a check from last year and they hold on to it and then they use it the following year on the same exact date. And then you don't get paid because it's a year old. So make sure you're paying attention to the year as well as the month and the date. And again, the fruit and vegetable dollar amount is over the limit. This is $12.29 and it was for 11, and then the name box wasn't checked. So a couple things for the bookkeepers. If the bookkeepers are online or that you want to pass on to your bookkeeper, these are things that they can help with. Before they deposit WIC checks, they can go through and make sure that there's valid use dates on the check. They make sure that the price is shown in the price box. They can make sure that the fruit and vegetable amount does not exceed the amount that's on the fruit and vegetable check. Make sure that there's a signature in the box and that the WIC stamp is legible. So the bookkeeper, every store is assigned a stamp number, and that's how your store gets paid. So that stamp number, the number that you put on that stamp is associated to your store, and that's how we deposit the WIC funds to your store. So make sure that that stamp is legible in the box, and if you ever need a new stamp, you let us know. We order those for you. Don't try to order your own stamp, because we've had stores try to order their own stamp and they got the wrong number in the box, and then their money goes to the wrong store. So make sure if you need a new stamp, if yours is starting to wear out, let us know. We order those for you and we'll send them to you. If your stamp is starting to run out while you wait for a new one, you can sort of fill in the numbers with a pen if you need to. If the one is starting to be unclear, you can fill it in a little bit so that it is legible at the bank. Any questions so far? Pause for a second. No hands raised. Everybody still with me? All right. Okay, so we're going to go into talking about the shopping guide and the foods. So everybody, hopefully everybody got the new shopping guide and the new foods and the information that came out effective October 1st. Everybody gets the same shopping guide. So the stores, the clients, the state staff, the clinics, everybody uses one shopping guide. There's not multiple versions. The new one was just issued, and it did include new foods, which we'll talk a little bit about today. If you ever need additional shopping guides, you email us or call our 1-800 number. We'll send them to you. We bring them with us when we do monitor visits. And we also have 11 languages available. So if you find that you have a need for other languages in your store, please let us know. Call or email us, and we will send those other languages to you. They're also available online on our website, so you could go there and download the PDF or just look if you have a question or need it. And also the shopping guide is available on your phone. Like you can look it up as an app on the you can type in the Washington WIC and you can get the food pages on your smartphone. If you're at the register, or for clients, you can pass that on to clients as well, as they can pull up the food pages on their smartphone when they're in the store. The shopping guide, so making sure, a reminder about making sure you read the checks carefully, that you're only selling the foods that are printed on the check, and that you're making sure those foods are approved foods. So a client might have an approved food in front of you, but it's not approved for that check because their check says maybe non-fat, but they have a whole milk. That milk is approved for WIC, but it's not approved for that particular check. So again, making sure you're matching what's on the check with what's approved for WIC. If it's not printed on the check, don't sell it. So you do need to know your approved foods, and you need to rely on the shopping guide, not your point of sale system. For the most part, point of sale systems are fairly accurate, but there are times, because the point of sale is still entered by a human, there are possibilities for error. So a food might not be in the point of sale system, and a client might say, yes, this is an approved food. Look, it's in the shopping guide. Then you do need to sell what is approved. And if it's in the shopping guide and it's not in your point of sale, then you need to go through whatever process or steps is necessary in your store. If that means getting a manager to do an override for you or whatever process it is, but you do need to sell a WIC approved food. You can't say, well, it's not in my system, I'm not going to sell it to you. If it's approved and you find it in the shopping guide, you do need to sell it to them. So, and then you can, talk with your managers and have your point of sale system updated later. So again, making sure you know your foods. If there's a question or if there's a conflict, refer to the shopping guide and go with what's in the shopping guide. Clients can ask you to order WIC-approved foods and formulas that you don't normally carry. So for example, there's some specialty formulas out there that maybe your store doesn't normally carry, but you might have a client who gets prescribed a therapeutic formula. They may come to your customer service and say, hey, I'm going to have this prescription formula for a couple of months. Would you be willing to carry it for me so I can buy it? You might be the store that's closest to where they live. And so we just ask if you can accommodate that you do. It's not a requirement, but that it's possible they might ask, and if you are able to accommodate, then we ask you to do so. Again, we talked about re-signing checks. If they've brought it in already signed, you can have them re-sign it after the purchase price is entered. The only items that they can exchange is if the food was outdated or spoiled, damaged, or defective. They can bring it in, bring it back, but they have to exchange it for the exact same product. Again, they're able to use manufacturer and store coupons and loyalty cards just like any other customer. What customers can't do is they can't accept rain checks or come back to get items that are not purchased once the transaction is completed. So as you know, what's on the check, if they're purchasing items, they have to get everything out. If they want everything on the check, they need to get it all at one time, because once the check is transacted, they can't come back later and get the other items. Now, I'll note that this is one thing that will change with the implementation of eWIC, is the card will have whatever foods they're prescribed, and they can come to the store at any time. They can come one day and get some of their milk and come another day and get the rest of their milk. So that'll be nice. One of the improvements that will come with the implementation of eWIC. But in the meantime, can't do rain checks, and once the transaction's completed, that's done. They can't substitute any item on the check. There are no substitutions. I know for some stores it's difficult because they're really into customer service and you want to meet a customer's needs, and they say, but I really want this. But if their WIC check says whatever, you have to get what's on the WIC check. You can't substitute just to make them happy. They might be upset, but just say, I'm sorry, but I can only do what is on your check. I encourage you to go back to the clinic if you want a different item and ask them to change it. I'll be happy to sell it to you if you get it changed on your check. They can't receive any kind of cash coupons or tokens or get any kind of dollar value for returned foods, and they can't use their WIC checks to pay any bill or make a payment on an account at your store. We talked a little bit about minimum inventory requirements. This document should have been in the packet of handouts that was sent out to you. It's also on our website. So this document lays out all of the required amounts of WIC foods that must be available in your store at all times. So this is one of the documents or one of the inventory that we go through when we come out and we do a monitor visit, is we make sure you have the right amount of cheese, the right amount of milk, And it lays it all out on this document, specifically what every store must have at all times. 9 cans of the Similac formula is a requirement. You don't have to carry all the formulas, but you do have to carry those 9 cans of that Similac powder, Similac Advance. So we're going to go through the shopping guide. You can follow along. Hopefully everybody has one. What we have on the slides are just sort of the highlights of the shopping guide. It's not everything, but there's also the page on there. So if you have a shopping guide or if you have a question, go to that page and see if what you're asking is on that page, and if not, then type it in and we'll try to answer it for you. But really these slides just have the highlights, and then for more information you'll want to refer to the page of that particular food category for the details. And as we go through here, we'll identify a couple of things that changed with the October food changes. So with baby cereal, you can see we now have Earth's Best. We didn't have that previously. It's an organic baby cereal. We have approved the 8-ounce to 16-ounce baby cereals. That hasn't changed. But part of the MIR, the minimum inventory requirement, is that all stores carry at least 2 of the 8-ounce containers. So 2 of the small ones, and if the rest you want to carry in the big 16-ounce, that's fine, but everybody's required to at least carry 2 small ones. Baby cereal is brand specific. It's got to be barley, multigrain, oatmeal, rice, or whole wheat, and it has to be plain. It can't have any flavors in it. No added formulas or banana. It's got to just be plain. Baby food, fruit and vegetables, that's on page 4 of your shopping guide. It has all the brands, the specific brands that are approved. These are 4-ounce glass jars or the 2-pack of the 4-ounce plastic tubs. So the checks are issued and they say 4-ounce. So if a check is issued for, say, 8 4-ounce baby foods, then that would mean they could get 8 4-ounce jars, or they would get 4 of the 2-pack 4-ounce plastic tubs. The only thing that's approved for the baby food, fruit, and vegetables is stage 2, and it's either single flavor or combination. So they can mix apples and apricots. They can mix even fruits and vegetables together. They could have apple and carrot if they want, as long as it's fruit or vegetable only. Can't add any noodles or rice or cobblers or things like that. The minimum inventory is that all stores have 32 jars or the plastic containers, as long as it's 32 4-ounces. And then you need to have 4 varieties. So 4 types, whether it's flavors or brands, there needs to be at least 4 different varieties of baby food, fruit, and vegetables. The baby food meats, there is 2.5-ounce glass jars only. Then they are stage 1 or 2. The single meat variety, it can be with or without broth or gravy. The minimum requirement is 16 jars in 2 varieties. So again, there's no dinners, noodles, or rice, or stage 3, and no meat sticks. So that is the baby food meats. Formula, so we're going to talk just a little bit about formula. We talked about it a little bit again. We'll do it again. So Similac Advance is the one that's required. These other ones that you see on the slide are ones that are approved by WIC and may come through your check line on a check. You may or may not have them in the store. But again, that one on the top left, the blue Similac Advance, is the one that all stores are required to carry. The others are optional for you, but they are approved. On the back of your formula reference sheet, you'll see it also has the breakdown of the language, so the powder, the liquid, the size, all the different variations of a specific formula that's approved by WIC. So again, when you're transacting a formula check, make sure you are matching the quantity. So the check will say how many containers. It'll say 9 cans of Similac Advance, 9 ounces in powder, whatever it might be. So it'll have the quantity, it'll have the brand name, it'll have the size, and it'll have the type, whether it's powder, liquid concentrate, or ready to feed. And again, the minimum requirement is 9 cans in the powder form of 12.4 ounce. The therapeutic formula Pediasure is approved. You are not required to carry it. But this is one of the items that they are allowed to get with flavor. I believe it's like vanilla and chocolate, I think it comes in. So that is allowed. They can get it with or without fiber. The only thing to make a note of here is that there's another one on the shelf called Sidekicks. So it looks really similar to Pediasure. It just has a tiny change in the label. So just make sure that what they're trying to purchase is Pediasure and not Sidekicks. So canned beans was recently added. Previously, we only had dried beans, but when we approved the new foods in October, we approved canned beans. So canned beans are approved in the 15 to 16 ounce cans. They need to be plain. Any brand is okay. They could be low or reduced sodium. They can be organic or non-organic is fine. They can't have any added flavors, spices. They can't get chili beans or refried beans or baked beans. Those all have added ingredients to them. The minimum requirement is 64 ounces total in 2 varieties, and this could be the dried or canned beans. Dried beans, peas, and lentils. So this has been on there before. There's no change here except for we did get rid of bulk. So bulk is no longer allowed. The 16 ounce bags, any brand or variety, non-organic or organic are fine. Again, no spices, no flavors, no mixes, not the bean soups. So it's just got to be the single bean, peas, or lentils. The breakfast cereal. We have 12 ounce to 36 ounce boxes. It is brand specific. They can do a combination of brands and sizes is fine. So their check will say a certain amount of ounces of breakfast cereal. So they combine different types of cereal to meet the total ounces that's on their check. And again, it's in the shopping guide for which cereals are approved. The store needs to carry at least 12 boxes at all times in 3 varieties, and at least one of those has to be a whole grain cereal. So basically, if you have Cheerios or Kix, that's a whole grain cereal. So if you have at least one of those, you know you've met the whole grain requirement. Some of the other ones are as well. That's just an example, but just make sure you have at least one whole grain. Oatmeal is not a breakfast cereal. Previously we had oatmeal packets. That went away. We don't have oatmeal packets approved as a breakfast cereal. If somebody wants to get oatmeal, they need to have a check that says whole grain choice, and then they can get oats as a whole grain choice option. But if their check says breakfast cereal, don't sell them oats. Okay, moving on to cheese. So cheese is 1 or 2 pound blocks. The only time the 8 ounce would be approved is if it says kosher on their check. So kosher cheese is only approved if it's on the check, and it typically comes in an 8 ounce size. The cheese needs to be domestic, made in the U.S. We approve the 6 different types, and any brand is fine. The minimum requirement is 6 1 pound blocks in 3 varieties. So you got to have a total of 6 1 pound blocks and then 3 different flavors or different types of cheese. No organic, so the ones that are not allowed is the extra sharp cheddar. So sharp cheddar is fine, but not extra sharp. And then on mozzarella, the regular mozzarella is approved, but not fresh mozzarella when it's packed in water. Okay, eggs, plain white chicken eggs, a 12 count carton is what's allowed. Any brand is fine. They can get small, medium, or large. What they cannot get are extra large or jumbo. You can't get any of the brown eggs, the range-free or organic specialty eggs are not approved. Just plain white chicken eggs in a 12 count carton. Canned fish. So this is still tuna, 5 to 6 ounce cans, or pink salmon, the 5 ounce or the 14.75 ounce. What we did is we added sardines this time around. So sardines are now approved in the 3.75 to 4.4 ounce size. So with all of these, any brand is fine as long as it's in water. What we don't approve is we don't approve the specialty fish, the albacore or yellowfin or smoked salmon or the pole or line caught fancy tunas. So just making sure it's the standard variety of tuna, salmon, or sardines. Fresh fruit and vegetables. So any type is fine. They can get organic if they want to. Bulk is still allowed in fruit and vegetables. Whole or cut, they can have the fruit and vegetables that's been pre-cut and washed and wrapped on the tray. As long as there's no herbs or seasonings added to it, that's fine. All stores have to carry at least 20 varieties of fresh fruit and vegetables. 5 need to be fruit and 5 need to be vegetable, and then the remaining 10 can be whatever you choose. What's not approved is herbs and spices. So for example, cilantro or parsley, those are herbs. They are not approved on the fruit and vegetable check. And we don't approve the party trays, so the big platters with dip. Those are not approved. What we did add in October was frozen fruits and vegetables, and you'll find that on page 14. So any size bag or steamer pouch is approved, organic or non-organic in any brand. So it's still treated as the fresh fruit and vegetables. It's a cash value voucher, so if they have a check for $8, they can get $8 worth of frozen fruit or vegetables, just like they could choose to get $8 worth of fresh fruit or vegetables. So it's treated the same on the cash value voucher check. But again, it has to be just the plain fruit or vegetable. The fruit or vegetable can be mixed, it just can't have any added ingredients. Frozen beans are actually okay in this category. So when you're in the frozen vegetable section, you'll find frozen black-eyed peas and edamame, garbanzo, and lima beans. So those are actually allowed in the frozen vegetable category as well. So no hash browns, no mashed potatoes, no tater tots, no French fries. Those will probably be the main thing that somebody will try to buy, and just, those are not allowed. Those have added fats and salts to them, so those are not approved. It has to just be plain fruit or vegetable, or the bean. In the juice section, so there's a couple categories. We took out the women and children language because it was sort of confusing for a lot of people. At the store level, you don't really know and don't need to know if it's a women or a child that the juice is issued for. All you need to know is the size. So their check will say 46-ounce or frozen fruit or vegetable juice. And then at the clinic for a child, they issue a check that will say 64-ounce juice. And so we've tried to clean up the language a little bit and just refer to juice as size and took out the women and children. So what's available now in 46-ounce, the only thing that's available in bottles for the 46-ounce size is vegetable and tomato juice. It can be in the cans or the bottle is fine, but there are no more 46-ounce fruit juices available. It has to be tomato or vegetable only if they get a 46-ounce juice. And because this is the women's category, the other option they have on their check, it will say 46-ounce or the frozen juice. So they can choose either the 46-ounce vegetable or tomato, or they can choose frozen. So there's a lot of frozen juices that were added this time around to give them more fruit juice options, but they're frozen. They're not in the cans or the bottles. And in your shopping guide, it lists out all the ones that are approved. So there's a lot more frozen juices approved this time around, so you might want to take a look at that as a big change. The minimum requirement is 6 total. It can be a combination of the bottle or plastic vegetable or tomato or the frozen. So as long as there's at least 6 cans or bottles and in 3 varieties. We don't approve any cocktails or aids, lemonade or limeade. And we don't approve any organic juices. So on the 64-ounce juice, again, this is the one that's issued for children, but what you need to know at the register is the size. So the check will say 64-ounce bottles of juice. It needs to be 100% juice, or otherwise it's brand specific. So there's a lot of juice blends. So there's a lot of juice blends that were added, and you'll find those in the shopping guide. There's plain juice, so the 100% pineapple, 100% orange, apple. There's a variety of plain juices, and then there's this category for juice mixes. So there are mixes that are approved, so you'll want to take a look at your shopping guide to verify that the juice they've selected is an approved one. What we don't approve is any ciders or cocktails, and sometimes it can be a little confusing because the juice the word cocktail, if that's on the label, that should trigger you to know that that's not an approved juice. It means that there's other added ingredients, and it's not enough juice to qualify for WIC. Again, we don't approve any organic juice or any refrigerated juices. These are all shelf-stable juices. The requirement is 6 bottles in 3 varieties, so that's the required minimum inventory for WIC. Okay, moving on to milk. So the main thing to know about milk is that you're matching the fat content that's on the check. So whatever type of milk you're getting, lactose-free, regular milk, goat milk, evaporated milk, whatever it is, make sure if the check says fat-free or whole or 1%, that is the type of milk that they're buying. We did approve goat milk this time, so goat milk is now an approved product. The only one we approved was Meyenberg. Meyenberg is only allowed if it's printed on the check, including dry or evaporated. It can be in plastic or paper containers. Milk can come in cartons or plastic jugs is fine. Gallons or half gallons. They can use half gallons to make up a gallon if they need to. The minimum requirement for milk is 10 gallons total, including at least 5 gallons of 1% or non-fat, and then any combination of approved sizes. So the milk category now also includes yogurt. So previously we did not have yogurt as approved, but you will find it in the milk category in your shopping guide. So I just want to point that out, because if it comes through your checkout line and you're like yogurt and you go look in your shopping guide under Y, you won't find yogurt there. It's actually a milk category. It's in the milk category. So just so you know, we approved yogurt as a milk option. It's on page 25. We approved the 1 quart size only in the plastic container. It's got to be cow's milk. And we approved any brand as long as it's low fat and non-fat, plain or vanilla only. There is no minimum inventory requirement. And again, it has to be a low fat or a non-fat, plain or vanilla only. We don't approve Greek and we don't approve organic. All right, so peanut butter. Peanut butter is on page 26. The thing that changed with peanut butter is the range. We only have 16 ounce available now. It used to be a range of 16 to 18, and we don't have the 18 ounce on there anymore. It's got to be 16 only. The reason is that federal regulations say that if we offer a range, 16 to 18 ounce, then all stores have to carry at least the top end of the range. And we have found that an 18 ounce peanut butter is really difficult to find. So we opted to just go with 16 ounce only. Unfortunately, what happened is that one of the peanut butters, a common peanut butter, is like a 16.3 ounce, and that unfortunately is going to no longer be approved unless they want to change their size to 16 ounce. So I think it was Skippy, I think is what it is. So you may find a few customers unhappy saying, I always buy Skippy, and then unfortunately because it's 16.3, it is no longer approved. So they'll have to pick a different one unless the company wants to change their size. So that's the biggest change with peanut butter. The minimum inventory requirement for peanut butter is 6 jars total in 2 varieties. So the variety can be, creamy or crunchy or salted or unsalted. The main thing is that you can't sell a peanut butter spread. It has to be 100% peanut butter. So that's another area where you got to be careful. Is sometimes they try to buy a spread because it's natural peanut butter, but actually it's a spread. So making sure it's a peanut butter and not a spread.
Also, you may be seeing some checks that are still in transition period that say the 16 to 18 ounce size, and we do want you to sell what's on the check. So if you do come across those checks, we want you to be able to sell those 16 to 18 ounce size. If it says that on the check, that's okay. Those are transitioning out, so the new checks that will be printed will say just the 16 ounce. And that also goes for the frozen fruits and vegetables. You'll see the fresh fruit and vegetable category that will now say frozen fruits and vegetables and fresh, and then you can sell those. So if it does say fresh only, then you'll only need to sell the fresh fruits until those checks transition out.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So some of the checks, you just have to sell what's on the check, and if their check says fresh fruit and vegetable, then they have to just only get the fresh fruit and vegetable. If they want to, they can go back to the clinic and ask the clinic to reissue them a check with the new printing, which includes the frozen. So the best thing to remember for you is just sell what's on the check. By December, all of those the other checks with the previous foods will be transitioned out of the system because checks are issued basically on a 3-month basis. So we'll talk about soy beverage. It's on page 27 in your shopping guide. Soy beverage is not a required inventory item, but it is a WIC-approved product. We have 3 that we approve: Eighth Continent, Pacific Ultra Soy, and Silk Original. And then we actually approve vanilla in the Pacific Ultra, so that's one of the few categories where we allow a little bit of flavoring. So Pacific Ultra Soy is allowed in vanilla or original flavor. A half gallon of soy beverage is okay when the check says 2 quarts. So sell what's on the check. If the check says 2 quarts, they can go, get a half a gallon size. Let's see, anything else you need to know about soy? Oh, all right. Tofu, page 28. Again, tofu is not a required food, but if you are going to offer it, it needs to be in the 16-ounce size. It is brand specific. Plain, cubed or sliced is fine, organic is fine, and it needs to be refrigerated. And again, there's no minimum inventory required. But the main thing with the tofu is a 16-ounce size. Whole grain choices. So what happens with whole grain choice is you have a category, or you have a check that will say a certain amount of ounces of whole grain choices. So the client gets to select what whole grain choices they want, whether they want to get brown rice or bread or tortillas, and they can select that up to the total amount of ounces that's approved on their check. So for the category of brown rice and the whole grain choice option is a 14 to 32 ounce bag or box. And again, I'll remind you that bulk is no longer approved. Organic is fine. It can be instant rice or regular, and it can be long or short, medium, it doesn't matter the size. What we don't approve is basmati, jasmine, quinoa, or any of the wild rice, sprouted or germinated. Any of those specialty rices are not approved. We approve bulgur in 16 to 32 ounce bags or boxes, any brand, and organic is fine. And again, a reminder that we've got bulk is no longer approved in any of our categories except for fruit and vegetables as of October 1st. And again, we don't approve any of the sprout or germinated specialty forms of bulgur. The whole grain choice for oatmeal, again, this is not a breakfast cereal. They can only get oatmeal if it's written on their check as a whole, if their check says a whole grain choice. So they can get oats as a whole grain choice. They can get 16 to 32 ounce size bags or boxes. It can be the cardboard cylinder. Organic is fine. It can be instant or quick is fine. Old-fashioned, regular, rolled, steel cut. Those are all options that are okay. What's not okay is the metal cylinders or little pouches or packets. And we don't approve anything with added flavors or spices. Soft tortillas is another whole grain option. These are approved in 8 to 32 ounce sizes. They can be corn or corn masa, whole wheat or whole wheat. These are brand specific. And again, if it's corn, it can be yellow corn or white corn is fine as long as it's all corn. You can't get a corn wheat mixture. They can get, it's soft tortillas only that are approved, no hard shells. Low sodium is fine, but not the low carb or light or reduced fat tortillas. Whole wheat pasta in the whole grain choice. So the one thing that changed here was the size. I believe previously we approved pasta in a slightly smaller size. Now the minimum size is 16 ounce. So it has to be 16 to 32 ounce size for a whole grain pasta. It can be a bag or a box is fine. It must be whole wheat. It can be any brand. I'm sorry, it's not any brand. It's actually included in your shopping guide. It's brand specific. So you'll want to take a look at the ones that are approved. Whole grain option for bread, 16 ounce to 32 ounces what's approved. It needs to be 100% whole wheat. Any brand is fine. Organic is fine. It needs to be a loaf and sliced. What we don't approve is the specialty breads in the bakery, no artisan or gourmet breads, no bagels or English muffins, no light breads or gluten-free breads. Let's see. Also, whole wheat hamburger buns and hot dog buns are approved. I think those were approved starting last year. Any brand is fine. Organic is fine. They're 14 to 32 ounce size as long as they're 100% whole wheat. Minimum inventory for the whole category of whole grain choices. So all of these together with the whole grain choice options, you need to have 128 ounces total in your store. At least 32 ounces of those whole grain options need to be brown rice, oatmeal bulgur, tortillas, or pasta. Additionally, you have to have at least 2 loaves of whole wheat bread. So previously, at least last year, we had a requirement to have 2 loaves of 16-ounce bread. We took away that because it was sort of a limitation for a lot of stores that don't carry that small loaf size. So you do have to have 2 loaves of whole wheat bread, but it no longer has to be the 16-ounce size. So you have to have 2 loaves of bread and additionally at least 32 ounces of either brown rice, oatmeal bulgur, tortillas, or pasta. And then any other combination of the rest of the whole grains is up to you. Okay. We can pause for a minute. Any questions? Anything we need to address? It looks like everything's good. All right. So for the food quiz, I think that what we'll do, we don't actually have a slide for that. Because usually what we do is we go over it in class together. Everybody works on it together when we do a class, but we're on a webinar, and so that's going to be difficult to do. So what I'm going to do is go through this with you. Hopefully everybody has the handout. You should have the blank quiz as well as the one that has the answers on it. And so we're just going to go through the ones. You can try to answer it as you go along, but I'm just going to review the questions and the answers. And as we go through, you can type in or raise your hand if you have any questions. So basically the quiz works like this. What we do is the line is what we want you to believe is the check line. So for question number 1, it says 1 dozen white eggs, small, medium, or large. So you assume that that's what is written on the check line. The WIC check that's in front of you at the register, that is what it says. So then you look at A, B, and C, and you try to determine what is the correct answer. And then for the questions, for the answers that you don't think are correct, you identify what is wrong with it that makes it not a correct answer. So for example, question number 1, 1 dozen white eggs, small, medium, or large. The correct answer in that one is C, 1 12-count carton of store brand medium white chicken eggs. That would be the correct answer. Letter A is not correct because it's an 18-count carton, and also because it's Eggland's Best. So those 2 things are not approved. So that would make A not a correct answer. Letter B would not be correct because it's 2 6-count cartons, and it also includes jumbo. So A and B are not correct, which leaves C to be the correct answer. Question number 2, 2 juice, 11.5 12-ounce frozen, 46-ounce can, 46-ounce bottle. A is the correct answer. 1 can Old Orchard cherry pomegranate juice, frozen 12-ounce, 100% juice. That is an approved juice. What is not correct in B is that it's Welch's 100% grape, because we don't offer grape in the 46-ounce size. On the, and it says can, we don't offer grape juice in the can. The letter C is not correct because of the 64-ounce size. So the check line reads 46-ounce, so the 64-ounce rules that out as eligible, and the Texas orange is not eligible. Question number 3, the check line reads 30-ounce fish, canned. None of the answers are correct, actually. Letter A, the Tongal tuna, is what makes it incorrect, as well as the 12-ounce size, because 3 times 12 is more than 30 ounces. Letter B, 8-ounce cans, is too many. And the letter C, what is incorrect, is the yellow fin and the oil-packed. Question number 4, the correct answer for 24-ounce baby cereal, plain, 8 or 16-ounce size container, the correct answers are B and C. A is wrong because it says 2 flip lid containers of rice and banana, and they're 16 ounces. So that is too much. That's 32 ounces, and the check line only reads 24 ounce, and we don't approve rice and banana baby cereal. Question number 5 says 32 ounces of whole grain choice. The correct answers are A and C. The incorrect answer is B, because we don't approve bulk anymore. The question number 6, 8-ounce glass jars of baby food meat at 2.5 ounce. A and C are correct. B is not correct because it's 8 jars of Happy Naturals, which is not an approved product. On question number 7, 1 package of tofu, 16 ounce. A is the correct answer. B is wrong because it's light, firm, and 14 ounce, which are not approved according to the shopping guide. And letter C is not approved because it's a dessert. Question number 8 is 2 juice, 64-ounce bottles. What is the correct answer is B. What's not correct is the letter A, because it's vegetable juice, which we don't approve in the 64-ounce size, and letter C, because 128 ounces is more than what's approved. Okay. Question number 9 is 2 16-ounce peanut butter or dried beans, peas, and lentils. A is the correct answer. B is not correct because it's 14 ounce and it's bulk, which neither are approved or organic. And letter C is not correct because it's a spread and it's 18 ounce. Number 10, 2-quart soy beverage, approved brand type. B is the correct answer, the 8th Continent vanilla soy. What is not correct about letter A is that it's Select Soy Original instead of Pacific Ultra. And letter C is not correct because Silk Original needs to be a refrigerated version, and the shelf stable is not approved. Number 11, 8 baby food, fruit, or vegetables, the 4-ounce, 2-pack counts as 2. So A and C are correct. The incorrect answer is B because it's 8 packages, which makes it too much. Number 12, 36-ounce breakfast cereal, 11 to 36-ounce boxes. A and B are correct. C is not correct because it includes the envelopes of oats, and that is not an approved breakfast cereal. Question 13, 1 gallon of 1% non-fat milk, any brand. The correct answer is B, 2 cartons of Dairy Gold, 1% acidophilus. What is not correct about A is Meienberg goat, because the check needs to say goat milk, and this particular check line is just regular milk. And then letter C is 2 cartons at 32 ounces, which makes it too much. Number 14, 1 pound of cheese, any brand, made in the U.S. So none of these answers are correct. We don't approve the queso fresca, and those are 8 ounces on there, and we only approve the 16 ounce unless it's kosher. B is not correct because it's extra sharp, and C is not correct because it's fresh mozzarella. Question number 15, $8 of fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables. A is the correct answer. B is not correct because it includes cilantro. C is not correct because it includes a salad kit and a platter. Question number 16, it says 1 gallon of whole milk, any brand. A is not correct because it's a powdered milk, and powdered milk needs to be on the check line. B is not correct because it's a creamy fat-free, and the check line says whole milk. C is not correct because it's 6 cans of evaporated at 12 ounce each. So that's not the right size or the right type. So that is the food quiz. And hopefully you have the blank quiz as well as the quiz key, so you can use that back at your store to do training in-house. Couple things to review with you is the WIC resources. We have our website, and on our website is available the documents that we've talked about today. Soon, I believe this webinar will be posted there as well. You can find the shopping guide on our website, the formula reference sheet, You have the ability to offer or order shelf tags and door signs and check guards. If you need a new stamp, a new WIC stamp for your store, let us know. And then also, if you're not aware, we do have monthly webinars regarding eWIC. So our eWIC implementation team has been hosting monthly webinars to help stores be prepared for eWIC, which is supposed to roll out next year. The pilot is supposed to roll out in 2018. And then the year following that would be the rest of the stores statewide. So if you want to stay tuned to what's going on, you can go onto our website and look at the past webinars. They're posted there, so you can go back and watch the ones that we've had previously, and then sign up to attend the future ones. I believe they're going to postpone November and December because we know those are busy months for grocery stores. So I don't think we're going to have an eWIC webinar for November or December, but you can go back and you can look at the ones that we had the last couple months and then starting up again in January. So it'll kind of give you up to date where we're at with implementing eWIC. Let's see. Any questions so far? Do we have anything pending out there that we need to answer? No? Looks like we're answering them as we go. So we got you signed in at the beginning. I believe everybody signed in who they were, what store they represented. I'm just going to pause for just a minute here just to make sure if there's anything out there that people have questions about. I feel like we went through all that pretty fast. So now is the time, if you have a question, to let us know. Send your question or raise your hand. At the end of the broadcast, I believe there's an opportunity to provide some feedback. We always encourage you to share some feedback with us. It helps us make improvements to our training. If there's additional things that you'd like to see in the future, let us know. If you want to contact us for any reason, you have questions, you want follow-up materials, or some part of the presentation you lost us, and you want to get some documents, just let us know. Email us or call us, and we will get that to you. So
we had a question, where is the attendance roster? For this webinar, we're just having you type in your name, title, the store you're at, and if you have a store number. That way we can apply credit for you. So you can just type that in the question area.
How many WIC checks, wait, well, one more, that was a question, sorry. How many WIC checks does a store have to fail in order to lose their WIC license? I'm guessing that means how many times do you get a notice of violation before you get disqualified? So it kind of depends. So there has to be, if you have a violation for, say, improper check transaction. So if you were having them sign the check before you put the price in the box, there needs to be a pattern of that particular violation before you would get a disqualification. And I believe a pattern is typically 3. But, and I think that's the same for substitution. So if you have a pattern, I believe it's 3 times that your store gets a violation for a substitution, then you might be looking at a disqualification. Some stores may be issued a fine in lieu of a disqualification. If they're at a location where clients need access to that store, then you might be offered a fine instead of being disqualified. So it kind of depends on the violation. If federal violations, serious violations like selling guns or alcohol or something like that, they can lead to an immediate disqualification. But improper check transaction or substitution, some of those are state level sanctions, and so we'd require a pattern, typically 3 times of that before you would be notified of getting disqualified. Hopefully that answers that question.
So we have another question from Derek, asking if Washington WIC recommends tagging baby formula as a WIC eligible item with the shelf tags. Yeah, we recommend that you take especially with the new foods, that you take your WIC shopping guide, the new one, and kind of walk through the store since we have lots of new items, and make as many tags as possible to make it easier for the experience of the WIC shopper.
Yeah, so for the formulas, again, it's not required. We recommend it. It's easier for the client to know what is or isn't approved. I noticed it says in here that Oregon's recommendation is not to put shelf tags on the formula. I don't know why. I hadn't actually heard that, so I don't know if that's because formulas change, or maybe, I really don't know, maybe that it contributes to some of the WIC formula fraud they sell online. I'm not sure. But in our state, we just recommend using shelf tags for all the things that are WIC approved as the best practice.
Yes, and also what I did find in one store I thought was a great idea is that they laminated the formula sheet and they just kind of hung it in the formula area. That way it had all the pictures on it and what was approved. So just an idea.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then we have
what evaluation do we need to send in? That's just at the very end of the webinar when you go to log off. It'll be an opportunity. It's just a little feedback form. I think there's just 2 or 3 questions, and if you just can answer them, that gives us a little bit of feedback. That's all it is.
Okay.
So another question came in. Our wholesaler says 100% whole grain is approved along with 100% whole wheat. I'm assuming that's in reference to bread. Bread has to say 100% whole wheat. A whole grain bread would not qualify. I've not heard that. So the bread needs to say 100% whole wheat. I think that's what you're referring to. Okay. We're just scrolling through here to make sure we got all of the questions. So if you just bear with us for a second. Let's see.
I think that was it.
Is that all of them?
I think so. Any other questions?
How many WIC checks does fine. Okay. It looks like we've answered everything. Maybe raise your hand or scream at us if we missed your question. And I think a whole grain pasta. Yes, so it has to be a whole wheat pasta. It can't say whole grain pasta. It has to say whole wheat pasta. On the pasta, I see the question again about the whole grain. Yeah, it needs to be a whole wheat pasta, not a whole grain pasta. For Washington. And
I think that's everything. Thank you all for joining us today, and always email us if you have any other questions that you think about. We're always here to answer those for you, and if you need anything further, you can email one of us or call the vendor management 1-800 number.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you all for attending and
bearing with us when we lost the technology side of the slides. So,
all right. Thank you all.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.